Okay, hello everybody. I hope you're doing fine, you're keeping safe, and you are the best health, and really ready to learn a little bit more. We have been working on the uh, body, the human body, okay, and the different systems or organ systems that they have. Right now, we have the turn of communications and control, which basically are going to cover two of these main organ systems. We're talking about the nervous system and we're talking about the endocrine system. Both of them will be in chapter 25 in your book if you have it. Okay, so here we go. Okay, in the sense of these systems, okay, the nervous system, our objective is first to describe the relationship that it has, the central nervous system, with the peripheral nervous system, because the nervous system is separated into two different types of systems or nervous systems. Okay, the second thing is to compare the somatic nervous system with the autonomic nervous system. We're going to talk more about what each of those means right in a couple of minutes. Okay, and then third, we're talking about listing some of the functions of different parts of the regions of the brain. Okay, now on the nervous system, we said we have the central nervous system, which it basically includes the brain and the spinal cord, and we have the peripheral nervous system, which basically is all the parts of the nervous system except for the spinal cord and for the brain, of course, okay, because they are part of the central nervous system. And we're going to use the letters that indicate them, CNS for central nervous system and PNS for the peripheral nervous system. Okay. Now, on that sense, we have to think about that the neurons are the specialized nerve cells that transfer electrical messages throughout the body. Now, what we have here is that we have to realize that it has the neuron itself has basically body parts. Okay, it has the cell body, the dendrite, which is the part of the body right here. Okay, and everything, and then it has the axon, which starts here, but basically goes all the way up to the end, where you have the axon terminal. Now, it's interesting because what we have is that each neuron is connected to another neuron. And in this case, then this axon terminal is basically connected to another dendrite. So by making connections and electrical impulses, they can communicate by giving messages back and forth depending on what you want to do on that sense. Okay. Now, continuing with this, okay, we have the peripheral nervous system, okay, and the peripheral nervous system has two types of motor nerves. Now, motor nerves are called like that because they actually make the transport. The first part is that most of the neurons are part of what we call the somatic nervous system and are under your conscious control. They control voluntary movements such as writing, talking. They do things like smiling or jumping or anything like that. Okay, and basically you control this. You are in control of this. You can tell your body what to do, and these are the ones that are connected to your muscles because that way you can actually make the movement. Now, on the second part, we have the autonomic nervous system. Okay, in these autonomic nerves, they do not need your conscious control. It controls body functions that you don't think about, such as digestion or even the beating of your heart or even breathing. Okay, because they are all contractions that have to do with muscles that you are not controlling. For example, your heart, which is the cardiac muscle, and that one's the one that is beating on its own. You don't tell your heart to start beating or to continue beating. And your breathing basically is also controlled by something that we call the diaphragm. And the diaphragm is also a muscle that you cannot control. I mean, you don't control it, you just basically have it. Okay? Now, the autonomic nervous system has two parts. This autonomic part, remember, the autonomic part is the one that works on itself. And it has two parts because it has to have some sort of a balance. This balance is fulfilled by what we call the sympathetic division and the parasympathetic division. And these are the ones that keep all these systems in your body in balance. Okay? Now, in this case, for example, to give you a couple of examples of what happens, is that we have, for example, in the eyes, we have the parasympathetic, when your body is at rest, it will do to constrict pupils. Okay? Constrict pupils. Okay? This is closing down the pupil. Now, in the sympathetic, when you have emergency situations, okay, basically, what happens there is that your pupils basically dilate. That means that they are open up so that more light can come into you and you can see better, okay, because you're in that position in which you have to be very aware of things. Remember, this is an emergency situation. Also, the heart, okay, if you are at rest, the parasympathetic will make your heart beat slowly. And when you are in trouble somehow, okay, or in dangerous situation, then your heart beats faster because your muscles need oxygen. the adrenaline is pumping and everything, so you need the heart to work a lot more faster so that you can get all these things there. Same thing with the lungs, digestions, and muscles. You have the examples there on the presentation, so we're not going to work too much on explaining each one of them, but you can find out on your own in your house. Okay? Now, in this case, what we have to consider is that there are different parts of the brain that make different controls, or different parts of the central nervous system. Now, as it says here, the brain would be separated into three parts. The first part is the one that we're going to be talking about here. Okay, this part right here that has all the colors. Okay, except, sorry, not the blue. Okay, so the green, the yellow, the lighter green, the red. Okay, these are all the parts, different lobes that are separated, and this is what we call the cerebrum. Okay, the cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It controls thinking, sensing, and voluntary motion. As you can see here, there on the image, it has control, motor control, concentration, planning, speech, body awareness, language, reading, vision, all these different things. The second part, okay, the second part of the brain is the cerebellum, which is actually the part here in blue. Okay, the part here in blue. This cerebellum is the part of the brain that keeps the body in position and helps maintain balance. Okay, then you have the medulla. The medulla controls involuntary processes such as the heart rate, the blood pressure, the body temperature, and breathing. Okay, this medulla is located right here. I'll show you with a cursor here. So here in the gray part right here, that's where the medulla is. Okay, and that's where basically, this part is the one that is going to be happening. Okay, now in responding to the environment, or the response to the environment, we usually rely on our senses. Okay, and we know that the senses that we have, or that we are familiar with, are the five senses. We have the senses of touch, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the smell, and taste. Okay, for example, in the sense of touch, we have different sensory cells in our skin that can actually feel when we get pinched, when we get hurt, when we touch a cold surface, or when we touch a hot surface. Okay, then we also have our sight. Our sight, we can basically control the entrance of light, and by entering through our eye, we can actually create images of what we see with the light, and that is basically moved to our brain so that we can actually understand what's going on around it. Most of the times we say that our observations are done with our eyes, but remember that they have to do with everything that has to do with our senses. Okay. Third, we have the sense of hearing, which we have this little bones. That's probably some of the smallest bones that we have in our body are there, located in our inner ear. And in this case, we have three small bones called the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup, and they are basically connected to the eardrum, where the vibrations that we perceive through our ear can actually travel there, and they can create and transform these vibrations into sound for us. And then we also have the sense of smell, okay, which basically we have olfactory cells, or devices that are basically able to perceive different odors, that some of them we are very much appreciative of, and some of them we are basically not liking them. Okay, the last one we don't have an image for is the sense of taste. And in the sense of taste, you already know that we can feel things that are salty or sweet or sour. Okay, and in that case, basically it gives us information about how certain things are. Okay, we depend on receptor cells to give us information about the environment or stimuli, which can be, like I said, touching a hot surface or touching a cold surface, that can make us react. Okay, now the second system. The second system is the endocrine system. It is a very important system for us. Okay, this system is a system that basically, will help us to create orders, or indications, instructions for the body to actually perform their job right in different times of our lives, or in every aspect of our life. Okay, in the case, this picture here shows a lot of the glands that are part of the endocrine system. Okay, the glands in the endocrine system use chemical messengers that we call hormones. Hormones regulate body functions by causing changes in cells or tissue. These feedback mechanisms tell the endocrine glands when to turn hormones on and off. And a hormone balance or imbalance is when gland releases too much or too little of a hormone. Okay, examples of this bad functioning of a hormone would be, for example, the people that have diabetes. The people that have diabetes they have a problem with the pancreas, which is located somewhere around. Let me see if I can get, yeah, somewhere around here. This is the pancreas. Okay, and the pancreas releases a hormone that we call insulin. And this insulin is the one that regulates the levels of sugar in the blood. If it releases too much insulin, then the levels of sugar drop. And if releases too little insulin, then the levels of sugar rise. Okay, so these are people that have diabetes that will have this kind of problems. Okay, now in this case we have different hormones, and we have them here. You have the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, we have the parathyroid gland, the thymus, the adrenal glands, the pineal gland, the thyroid gland, the pancreas, the ovaries, and the testes. Of course, the ovaries are specifically for women or girls, and the testes are particularly for men or boys, males, okay, of the species. They perform different functions that you can read here. You can see it on the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to send you and everything, which is the same that we're basically seeing right now. And you can read it with a little bit more time and everything. Okay, so with that sense, okay, you are hopefully now ready to work on your worksheet, or you're now ready to do your worksheet. And please remember to keep safe. I miss you guys a lot. I wish, sorry, that we can actually see each other very soon. For the meantime, bye bye. Take care. Be safe.